Hi everybody, what's really going on between Elon Musk and South Africa over Starlink? In South Africa, access to the internet is more than just a convenience. It's a gateway to opportunity. It's the difference between a student in a rural village having the same access to information as a student in Johannesburg. It's the difference between a small business owner connecting to global markets or being confined to their local community. The digital divide here doesn't just separate the connected from the disconnected. It shapes education, economic potential, and ultimately, the future of an entire nation. Now, imagine a world where the internet isn't delivered through fragile cables trenched into the ground or from towering cell masts, but from space itself. Imagine thousands of satellites orbiting hundreds of miles above the Earth, beaming high-speed data down to virtually any point on the planet. This isn't science fiction. This is Starlink. And one of the world's most influential and controversial tech entrepreneurs, the man behind this satellite network, was born right here in Pretoria, South Africa. His name, of course, is Elon Musk. So, on the surface, this seems like a perfect match. A South African-born innovator with a technology that could finally bridge his home country's deep digital divide. A nation in need of the solution he provides. But the story is far from simple. It's a tangled web of technology, post-apartheid economic policy, diplomatic tension, and a nation wrestling with its own identity on the global stage. This is the story of what's really going on between Elon Musk and South Africa over Starlink. To understand the stakes, you first have to understand the problem. South Africa is a study in contrasts. It's one of the African continent's most industrialized and developed economies. In the financial heart of Johannesburg, or the tech hubs of Cape Town, you'll find fiber optic connections that rival those in London or New York. But that's only part of the picture. Move just a few hours outside these urban centers into the vast rural expanses of the Eastern Cape, Limpopo, or KwaZulu-Natal, and the story changes dramatically. Here, reliable, high-speed internet is often limited, prohibitively expensive, or simply non-existent. For a student in a remote village, accessing online learning materials can mean a long, expensive journey to a town with a library or an internet cafe. For a small-scale farmer, it means being unable to access real-time market prices or weather data. For a local clinic, it can mean an inability to conduct telemedicine consultations or maintain digital health records. This gap isn't just an inconvenience. It's a barrier to participation in the modern economy. So, why is it so hard to connect these areas? The answer is geography and economics. South Africa's terrain is rugged and vast. Laying thousands of kilometers of fiber optic cable across mountains and plains is astronomically expensive. Traditional mobile towers are cheaper, but they still require backhaul connections, often fiber or microwave links, and they have a limited range. For telecommunications companies, the math is brutal. The cost to build and maintain infrastructure in a sparsely populated rural area is high, while the potential return on investment from a small customer base is low. It's a classic market failure. This is where satellite internet, and specifically Starlink, enters the picture with its revolutionary promise. It bypasses all that ground-level infrastructure. The signal comes from space, meaning that a school in the most remote corner of the country could, in theory, have the same high-speed access as a corporate office in Sandton. The potential to leapfrog generations of outdated technology is what makes this so exciting. Elon Musk and his South African roots. But this isn't just a faceless corporation seeking entry into a new market. This involves one of the most famous people on the planet, and his connection to the country runs deep. Elon Musk was born in Pretoria in 1971. His childhood, by his own account, was difficult. He was bullied at school, and his relationship with his father was strained. At the age of 17, facing mandatory service in the South African military during the apartheid era, he made a choice. He left for Canada, using his mother's citizenship to gain entry, eventually making his way to the United States. He left behind a country on the cusp of monumental change. Just a few years after his departure, Nelson Mandela would walk free, and apartheid would officially end. Musk built his career far from this transformation, becoming a defining figure of the tech industry through PayPal, Tesla, and SpaceX. Now, decades later, his most ambitious project, Starlink, has turned his birthplace into a focal point of intense debate. For many South Africans, this isn't just a business negotiation. It's a complex homecoming. Here is a local son who made it on the world stage, now holding a key that could unlock immense potential for his people. There's a sense of pride, but also a sense of skepticism. Does he still see himself as South African? Or is he just another global billionaire looking for a new market, guided by the same profit motives as any other foreign corporation? This question of identity and influence hangs over every discussion about Starlink's future in the country. Starlink promise and question. So, let's look at what Starlink actually is. Instead of relying on cables and ground-based towers, Starlink is a constellation, a massive network of thousands of small satellites orbiting the planet just a few hundred miles above the Earth. This low orbit is key. It allows for much faster data transmission, or lower latency, than traditional, clunky satellite internet of the past. A user on the ground simply sets up a small pizza box-sized dish, which automatically aligns itself to track the satellites overhead. A dish being set up in a remote location, the potential, as we've discussed, is truly enormous. Imagine a school in a deep rural area suddenly having access to the same online resources as a private school in Cape Town. Imagine a small business owner in a rural town being able to compete in the global digital marketplace. Imagine doctors in a remote clinic consulting with specialists in real time across hundreds of kilometers. That's the undeniable promise Starlink offers. But with this great promise comes a great point of contention. And this is where the what's really going on gets interesting. South Africa, like many nations emerging from a history of deep inequality, has a legislative framework designed to correct the imbalances of the past. Central to this are its Black Economic Empowerment, or B, policies, which have evolved into what's now often referred to as broad-based Black Economic Empowerment. These aren't just suggestions. They're a fundamental part of South African law, especially in key sectors like telecommunications. The rules are designed to ensure that the benefits of economic activity are shared more equitably among all citizens, particularly those who were systematically disadvantaged by apartheid. For a foreign company like Starlink to operate and get a license, it would generally need to have a certain percentage of its local operations owned by historically disadvantaged groups. This is known as equity equivalent. From the perspective of the South African government, this is non-negotiable. It's a core pillar of their post-apartheid social contract. Allowing a massive foreign entity to come in and capture a huge chunk of the telecom market without meaningfully integrating and empowering local communities would be seen as a betrayal of that contract. It would be, in their view, a new form of economic colonization. From Elon Musk and Starlink's perspective, these rules are a major hurdle. Starlink operates as a global company with a specific model. They have reportedly pushed back against the local ownership requirement, arguing that it complicates their corporate structure and global operations. They see it as a regulatory barrier that's keeping a transformative technology out of the country. So, the standoff isn't about the technology's capability. It is a fundamental clash over principles, the principle of a global company's operational freedom versus a nation's sovereign right to shape its own economic destiny and ensure that foreign investment leads to genuine local benefit. Geopolitics and pressure. And to make things even more complex, this discussion does not exist in a vacuum. It's playing out against a backdrop of significant geopolitical tension. Over the past several years, South Africa's relations with the West, and particularly with the United States, have become strained. South Africa has pursued a foreign policy of non-alignment, refusing to take sides in the major power rivalry between the US, China, and Russia. It has maintained strong trade ties with the West while simultaneously strengthening its political and economic relationships with BRICS partners, including China and Russia. Most notably, South Africa has refused to condemn Russia's invasion of Ukraine, a stance that has drawn sharp criticism from Washington. This tension came to a head during the previous U.S. administration, when senior American officials accused South Africa of leaning too far toward Moscow and Beijing. There have been threats of economic retaliation, including a potential review of South Africa's access to the vital African Growth and Opportunity Act (AGOA), which allows it to export goods to the U.S. duty-free. Now, enter Elon Musk. He is not just a businessman. He is a highly influential figure with direct lines to powerful people, including most recently becoming a key advisor to President Donald Trump. For some in Washington who are already critical of Pretoria, the Starlink situation becomes another powerful tool. It can be framed not as a sovereign nation applying its own laws, but as a hostile government blocking an American company and a transformative technology for ideological reasons. It adds a layer of diplomatic pressure to what is fundamentally a regulatory dispute. For the South African government, led by the African National Congress ANC, giving in to this pressure would be politically difficult. It would look like they are bending the knee to foreign, particularly American, demands, undermining their cherished principle of sovereign independence in foreign policy. A decision about a satellite internet company has become entangled with national pride, geopolitical positioning, and the country's relationship with its most powerful trading partner. South Africa's policy stance. South African leaders are aware of the scrutiny. From their perspective, they are not being difficult for the sake of it. They argue that their transformation policies are not just a relic of the past, but a vital and ongoing project to build a more just and stable society. They would point out that the end of apartheid didn't automatically create economic equality. The structures of the economy still largely reflect the patterns of the past. For them, allowing a company like Starlink to operate without adhering to B principles would set a dangerous precedent. It would signal that foreign capital can bypass the very laws designed to uplift the majority of their citizens. It's a delicate balancing act. On one hand, they desperately need the innovation and investment that companies like Starlink bring. On the other hand, they must be seen to be protecting the opportunities and interests of South Africans. Their stance is that Starlink is welcome, even wanted, but it must be on terms that align with the country's long-term vision for itself. It's a classic struggle between the forces of globalized capitalism and the principles of national sovereignty and social justice. So, as we come to the end of this story, we have to ask the central question again: is this really just about satellite internet? Or is it about something much bigger? This standoff has become a powerful symbol of the choices facing not just South Africa, but many nations in the global South. In a world where connectivity is rapidly becoming synonymous with power, economic power, educational power, political power, the decisions a country makes about its digital infrastructure are also decisions about its future. Is the priority to get the best, fastest technology as quickly as possible, even if it comes with conditions that feel like a new form of dependency? Or is the priority to build that future on your own terms, ensuring that the benefits are woven into the fabric of your own society, even if it means a slower, more difficult path? South Africa stands at this digital crossroads, weighing the promise of opportunity against the principle of autonomy. The choice it makes regarding Starlink will send a powerful signal. It will show whether the country is open for business on its own terms, or willing to compromise its core policies for the sake of technological progress. The face of a connected Africa is still being written, and this decision is one of its key paragraphs. What happens next, in this negotiation between a billionaire and a nation, will likely ripple far beyond South Africa's borders, influencing how other countries in the global South approach the digital giants of the 21st century. This is Sal Peer, signing off from VlogND, where we worked to uncover the true stories of Africa and the world. Thank you for watching. If this deep dive challenged your thinking and helped you see the complex forces shaping our continent more clearly, please consider subscribing. It helps us continue this work and ensures you never miss what comes next. We truly appreciate your support.